Hey everyone, ELD here, getting ready for Eternal Weekend, and what better place to start than the deck that won in Asia, came in second in Europe. That is Oath of Druids. Feel free to pause here. This is the visual deck list if you want a longer look, but we're going to go over pretty much everything there as we break down in this deck tech what makes this deck so dangerous and such a good choice for Eternal Weekend. Atraxa, at this point, is completely outclassed Gristlebrand. I mean, unbelievably powerful ETB. You want to think about that as winning the game, essentially. Once she enters, you're going to get a tremendous advantage. And if you're playing against this deck, you want to stop her from entering at all costs. I mean, just unreal, the card advantage. Digging 10 cards deep. This feels like it was, kind of made for Commander or something. It's such a ridiculous amount to dig into the library and just fill your hand with new resources. Now, the flying, Death Touch, Lifelink, Vigilance, those combine with that 7/7 body for an unbeatable board presence, swinging for 7 in the air, connecting with your opponent, putting them on a 3-turn clock. Remember, this is a format where you can potentially take an extra turn with Time Walk as well. So your opponent's got 2, maybe 3 turns to live with Atraxa on the board. And if they try and swing back into her, that Vigilance means that you're just gaining even more life. So this really dominates creature-based strategies. Of course, we're not paying retail for her. We're looking to put her in as cheap as possible, and Show and Tell is going to allow you to get Atraxa in from hand for just 3 mana. And for just 2 mana, you can flash her in. Now, with flash, she's not going to stick around, but it's still absolutely worth the inclusion, as that advantage from her entering the battlefield is just unbelievable. Just comical to see the deck in action. The most powerful way to get her into play is Oath of Druids, the namesake of the deck. This is a 1-card combo versus the creature decks of the format, and you do not want to be putting down like a Collector Roof versus a deck like this. I mean, it is just a horrifying punish for your opponent to just jam an Oath of Druids and bury you with just repeated Atraxas each turn, oathing up a new Atraxa, getting that ETB. I mean, it is just wild to see this deck work. If your opponent doesn't have creatures, your Oath is still going to be fine, as Oko, Thief of Crowns, just an incredibly powerful card in general, perhaps the best Planeswalker ever, can give your opponent Elks or answer any problem permanents if they think that they're going to be cute with a Torpor Orb or some type of onboard permanent to screw with Atraxa. Oko's generally going to be able to handle that. And then, of course, the original combo with Oath of Druids, Forbidden Orchard. I mean, all it is a land that gives your opponent creatures while fixing your mana perfectly. It is exactly what Oath had always wanted, and they've been best friends since Champions of Kamigawa. A backup plan, or just a way to put a nail in the coffin, is Tinker in this deck. Now, you're not getting any creatures with it generally, but you are able to Tinker for Bolas's Citadel, which is mostly a better Yawgmoth's Bargain in this deck. Remember, you're gaining life from Atraxa very often, so the fact that you're paying life to play cards off the top of your library is very, very welcome. And then, of course, with a Sensei's Divining Top, it actually is just a strictly better Yawgmoth's Bargain, as you can tap top to draw and then replay it off of the top of your library for just 1 life. Essentially just getting more cards than just 1 life per card, because when you hit your 0 drops, which you play a bunch of, you can just play those Mox and Lotus, etc., for free. So really, I mean, that's your backup plan, which is pretty scary for this deck. Of course, you play all of the good black and blue cards that you would expect: Ancestral Recall, Brainstorm, Gitaxian Probe, and a couple of tutors with Vamp and Demonic are going to help pull things together while giving you just a very dangerous composition that you could see in your opening hand. Any of those cards in your opener, you're going to be really, really ahead if they resolve. And Time Walk, of course, good in every deck that runs it, but here, the fact that it closes the door that much faster is just one of the better Time Walk decks. Narset is brutal, and of course, it doesn't stop Atraxa on the other side either way. That's one of the things that's so great about Atraxa, is cards like Narset and Hull Breacher and Orcish Bowmaster just don't interact. So your opponent not being able to draw more than 1 card, if they get an Atraxa out against you, like, they just completely sidestep the entire purpose of this card, which is to try and stop them from going absolutely bonkers on you. And she just is not up to the task of stopping opposing Atraxas, but she will stop things like Bazaar aggro, activating Bazaar, which can be very, very hurtful. Of course, the deck plays a ton of counters, and that's actually a good reason to play this deck. It has the ability to say no more firmly than many of the other blue decks in the format. It has a playset of Force of Wills, which is not surprising. Many decks do find room for a playset of forces, but this also has Force of Negation, a couple in the main deck, copies of Flusterstorm or Spell Pierce, Mental Misstep. I mean, you have room for those extra counters because the Oath package is so small and efficient that you can have extra counters to stop your opponent's plan or just stabilize once you get going. Boseiju, also an incredibly strong answer, can answer a card like Caracas, which could be a bit of a problem otherwise, but the fact that you have a couple of Boseijus in the deck means that you're going to find them from repeated Atraxa ETBs and eventually just get that Caracas out of there and easily win anyways with a comical amount of card advantage. Now, this deck plays the full suite of zero casting cost accelerants, so this can start threatening the win or a completely unwinnable board state for your opponent as early as turn 1. So if you're looking for a deck to play at Eternal Weekend, you could certainly do worse. This may actually be the best deck in the format for a tournament of this size. You're going to get some free wins. It is actually able to say no to some of the most degenerate things that the format has to offer, and it really punishes those fair strategies as well. So let me know what you think. Would you think that this is one of the best decks in the format? Can you really argue with a win in Asia and a second place in Europe? I look forward to seeing the comments.